It's the most asymmetric threat out there. For $2,000, you can breach any fence in the world.
How do you protect against drones in the hands of a terrorist or a criminal? Drones are great, they're fun, they're capable of very rapid flight, and they're hard to detect. They're
Yeah.
also almost impossible to shoot down. They can carry dangerous, explosive, even radioactive substances. It's kind of a nightmare for large open air stadiums, airports, and other potentially sensitive locations. So, how do you protect against drone threats? Joining us today on the TechFirst podcast is AD. He's a CEO of Dedrone. Welcome, AD.
Hey, John. Thank you for having me here, and love to speak about the questions you just raised. It's something I think
Excellent.
about every day. Yep.
Excellent. Let's start here. How big of a threat are drones?
So, firstly, let me start by saying this: drones do a lot of good, right? Drones, the primary use of drones is like transportation and compressing the last mile of from logistics, etc. They do a lot of good. But what they can also do is get in places that you don't want to get in, right? So if you're a bad guy, you don't want to be inside a prison and blow up something. It's easy for you to send it through a drone. So it is a big problem. It is a huge problem in the industries we work in. Our customers are security folks and defense, national security folks. And sometimes they talk about it, sometimes they don't talk about it. But it's an imminent threat. It's the most asymmetric threat out there. For $2,000, you can breach any fence in the world, and it worries me. It's the North Star for us as a company, and we are always looking to find ways to kind of get ahead of the bad guys in this.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with the drone, right? You can fly into an airplane or a helicopter, get sucked into a jet engine. You could also carry a payload that could be explosive. It could be something else, perhaps something infectious as well, or poisonous. But let's assume that you're running some big space, maybe an airport or whatever. How do you detect drones that might be entering that airspace?
Right. So, John, I mean, I'm a technologist at heart, and there's a lot of problems in this world that you can solve with technology. This is actually one of the tougher problems to solve. Just think about like the vastness of the 3D space on top of a large airport, and think about the size of a commercially available drone, the size of a shoebox. So finding that accurately and fast enough for you to do something about, the situational awareness is actually a very tough computational problem to solve. So we use multiple sensors in terms of capability. So you can do it primarily by three ways. One is you can use a radar. The other, we can use a radio frequency. So you kind of listen to the RF signal between the drone and the controller. And the third one is you slew to cue a camera and use computer vision algorithms, AIML. So this is actually like a perfect area for application of machine learning and enhanced sensor fusion technology, if you will, to kind of put 3 4 inputs together and come up with the best output and keep iterating that over millions of iterations and keep improving. So it's a very good use case for AI, and that's what we're doing.
Are there differences between guided drones versus autonomous drones in how to detect them?
Yeah, of course. I mean, drone technology is running way faster than most people know. Like yesterday you could go 2 miles. Tomorrow you could probably go 6 miles without an RF signal. So yes, most people, careless and clueless, that's what we call them in the industry. Harmless people just wanting to take pictures and locations that they don't want to be. They're flying drones that have an RF signature, most likely, right? So they have an RF connection with their controller, and they fly to that location, take a picture, and come back. But what is available to bad guys these days is also autonomous drones. You can just type it into, a GPS location, pre-program that and let it go. So we have, by doing a multi-sensor, multimodal sensing of the airspace, uh, we first look for RF. If the RF signal is not there, we look through the radar, and then we slew to cue our camera to kind of confirm that it's actually a drone. And all this has to happen real time for it to be effective for security personnel who are our customers. So yeah, it's a great question. Both these drones, both these types of drones can be detected based on the same system.
This episode is sponsored by Dollar Smart, my creator coin. Yeah, it's crypto. No, it's not a scam. Buy some to support the show, sponsor the show, get weekly rewards as the coin grows, or just to be part of the community at rally.io/creator/SMRT. So drones are pretty fast. I mean, you can get ones going 30 clicks an hour, 60 kilometers an hour, 40 miles an hour, maybe even 70. Some are really crazy fast. They're
Yeah.
the kind that people actually race with. Once you detect them, how much time do you have to interdict them, intercept them, or down them? And how do you do that?
Right. So it's just two parts to this question. How do you detect them in time? And what do you do once you detect it? So I'll answer the first question first. So drone speeds can be anywhere from 10 miles an hour to 200 miles an hour. It is totally,
Wow.
especially if you're looking at like larger, we call it group three drones, but the drones that are used in the military space, I think those are pretty fast moving drones. So sometimes you have as little as 180 seconds if, you know, for something that's coming in from 10 kilometers. So we've done the math on a lot of these models. But what is important is again, I think leveraging software, leveraging AI ML. If you can understand the flight pattern of something that's coming towards your target or the area you want to protect, and figure out that a bird is not going to fly like this. This is not a normal airplane. So you need to kind of be fast and kind of figure out prioritize that up the sensing change and come up with a solution quickly. And once you have whatever 1 minute or a half a second or whatever that time is depending on situation, um, you can do one of two things. One is you can do what we call in our industry EW, electronic warfare, which means you just jam the drone. Like it's got an electronic signal, just jam it. But if it doesn't have that, the second level is primarily available to the DoD these days, I would say, where you could throw a laser towards that to kind of blow it up in the sky or simple put lead on it, right? That's another thing that people do. Or there are some new technologies coming up, which it's called high power microwave, where you basically fry the drone in the sky. So it's pretty cool to look at it in a test range, but it's actually very scary when it really happens.
Yes, exactly. So I kind of heard three things there. I heard laser. I think I heard you say put lead on it, which is basically shoot it.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's probably automated solutions for that. We've seen some of those
Yep,
anti-missile type things and
right.
a scaled down solution for that. And then of course microwave. I think I've also seen these handheld systems where you shoot like a net or something like that. I don't know
Right.
how effective that is depending on the speed of the drone.
No, absolutely. I mean, so the first bucket is electronic warfare. So you jam. So there are RF jammers. That's the most prevalent type, I would say, jammer slash takeover technology. The net guns are great. Obviously, I mean, I'm friends with companies that are, building these and promoting these. So the challenge with the net gun is the drone has to fly very predictably for you to hit it. And if you're that bad of a pilot, then you're not a real threat, to be honest. So I think net guns are great. I think it's eventually a layered solution, right? So you got to have all these things depending on how important the location you're securing. You got to have multiple different ways you can capture the drone, and you try all of them based on a rules engine, right? What is your escalation mechanism? You kind of align that upfront with the security personnel and say, we'll try this first. If this doesn't work, we go to this. If this doesn't work, we go to this. Because it's easy to say just shoot a laser, but like laser can go all the way up to satellites and take out satellites, if not airplanes. So there are problems with every technology. This is a very, very hard problem to solve. But I think a combination of multiple sensors is usually how you kind of get to like a 99% solution in some ways.
And I'm guessing that you want the solution, the interdiction solution to be as automated as possible. You might be having a 100 mile an hour, 150 mile an hour drone coming in, operating unpredictably because it
Yep.
knows it's there for a negative purpose. It knows the target might be defended, and it knows, or the operator knows, I'm going to try and get around that. So you want those systems to be linked, right? There's the detection
Yep.
software, targeting software, and actual interdiction hardware, correct?
Yep. Yep. So I think you're absolutely right. I think there is a high level of autonomy required for these independent systems to operate autonomously. But given the collateral damage that these things can cause from a mitigation perspective, it's always good to have a man in the loop. Like I've seen many deployments around the world, and you always have a man in the loop because you don't want to by mistake shoot something that will upset people, or but if you get it wrong, the cost is too high. So there is always a man in the loop, but you need to, like, again, AI ML is critical. That's why we are very proud of what we do, because I think we need to reduce operator workload. If there's one person or two people sitting in front of the computer looking at different screens, you need to be able to tell them that, hey, there's a 99% probability you need to look at this versus all the other junk that you
Hmm.
get when you kind
Hmm.
of survey
Hmm.
the airspace for that kind of that large an airspace. So it's a classic problem to solve with machine learning. And I think as a company, we have 20 million images of drones in different locations and with different backgrounds, which is always kind of learning and training our database. We have 300 different SKUs of how radio frequency sounds of different drone SKUs are. So will keep building on that. That's what the money's for. I'm probably preempting that. That's what the money's for, because this is a great problem to solve, and we know that it's a very asymmetric threat that is of a big concern for public safety and national security.
Yeah, so AD is letting the cat out of the bag. Today, actually, when we're recording this, which is December 17th, Dedrone announced a funding round, and we'll get to that. And that is a big funding round, and it's a cool funding round. Before we get to that, what are the components of your solution? Are you more the software side? Do you have hardware sides as well? What do you actually provide?
Yeah, that's a great question, John. So we actually started our journey as a company in the space, building sensors to detect radio frequency. So we started as a hardware-ish company, but we quickly realized the solution is in software. So we pivoted the company and we built the entire stack, which can take any input from a sensor perspective, from a detection, tracking, and identification, and any output from a mitigation perspective, where we can kind of cue the right mitigation. But what we want to be is the platform that brings everything together, because I think that's where the value is. That's where we can actually bring the AI ML capability to life. And we know that this is where the market should go in the next, it's already there. Everyone who's worried about this problem knows that they need a multi-layered solution. They need an orchestration software platform that can do it better. And we're very proud that that's what we spend all our time doing, basically.
You have about 100 customers right now. Talk to us about what kind of customers they are, what kind of facilities those might be.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have four primary segments, if you will. Uh, the first one is obviously defense. So we work with a lot of US and global G4, actually, four out of the G7 countries, militaries, and federal governments. In fact, within continental US, we work with not just continental, just federal government in US. We work with 9 agencies across the US federal government. So that's a big vector. That's a big sector for us. That's almost half our revenue or a little less. And on the commercial side, we have airports. We have 20 airports around the world. Very obvious use case at the airport. We're a market leader in the UK. We have like 5 or 6 airports in the UK right now, out of the 10 that matter. And the third vertical we have is prisons. We secure about 60 prisons across the world at this point, and that is a market we think could easily double, triple for us in the next year or two. But last but not the least is critical infrastructure. So if you
Mhm.
before what happened with FBI put out some information earlier last month, which said there was a drone-based attack on a utility infrastructure facility in July 2020. So they just released that information, but they know that that was one. The intention was nefarious, and they wanted to disrupt the entire Northeast in terms of power supply. So critical
Wow.
infrastructure is picking up for us big time. We right now have about 65 locations where we're securing critical infrastructure facilities. Think stadiums, think oil and gas, think utilities, power grids, etc. And these are primarily depending on us to make sure that we can these assets are worth billions in terms of liability and value.
And
And
not only worth billions, but I mean, hundreds of millions of people depend on them. You
absolutely,
think about something like a pipeline, how defenseless that really is if somebody wants to get to it, or an oil refinery, right? Or a generation facility, a dam.
yeah,
You mentioned stadiums as well, right? I mean,
yeah,
50, 60, 70,000 people in a place. it's an increasingly dangerous world that we live in. It's an increasingly difficult world to keep people safe. Really challenging. Can you also do like pop-up events? I mean, imagine a festival, a music festival or something like that.
Yeah, John, we absolutely do that. I mean, I can't name the locations and the customers, but we have secured a lot of one-off events, and this is where we work with law enforcement folks. Be it music festival or horse racing event and things of such nature, where there's or even like car racing for that matter. We've secured that as well, or a golf event, high profile golf
Hmm.
event. Um, we secure all these things because people want to just bring a drone and try to take pictures where they can't be. And in that, imagine if you're an F1 car going at 200 kilometers an hour, and suddenly a drone hits your visor, you're dead. That's a pile. That's a pile of 20 cars go onto the curb, and hopefully people don't die, but it's highly likely that they can die. So that's what people want to avoid. They want to kind of, what we do is we set up a couple of days before and make sure that, the security personnel are able to survey what's going on. And a lot of times people who actually want to do it during the event come and try, test out and do reconnaissances before, and we've avoided a lot of these things of not happening, anything not happening in the day of the event, and that's the best outcome for us. If there is no event, that's the best outcome for us. So
Yes, exactly. One of those challenging places where you work and you want nothing to happen.
yeah, we just want nothing to
You,
happen.
yep.
Yeah.
You just raised a significant chunk of capital. Tell us about that.
Now we're very proud and humbled to we were always we were thinking about a strategic partner to kind of think about big picture public safety in not just US global, and we started talking to Axon Enterprise, which is the company that makes the tasers and the body cams for law enforcement. And we absolutely loved the vision in the team. I mean, it's run by a visionary founder, Rick Smith. So he's seen markets before people have seen markets in law enforcement. So he sees this as a huge opportunity. His team is super revved up and very smart about the industry. And they've done a very good, thorough analysis. And we're very proud that they picked us as the best team and the best product in the market. And we see ourselves being one key element of their broader public safety and connected safety mission. So we raised about 30.5 million, led by Axon. Every major investor we have is participated in the round. um, so it's a ringing endorsement for our product and our team. Um, we intend to use this capital for primarily R&D work. So as I said, this is a fast evolving threat. Every day there are probably 500 new drones coming out. So we got to be ahead of that. Uh, I exaggerate. It's not 500. Maybe it's five.
Yes. I think everybody realized.
Yeah. So I we got to keep ahead of that, and we got to keep putting stuff into our AI classifiers so that it keeps getting smarter and smarter by the day, and we can then with our footprint, which we have 100 plus customers, so as we keep growing our footprint in terms of deployments, we start getting more data, and our engines become smarter and smarter day by day. So that's hopefully the wish virtuous cycle we want to get into, and it's primarily an R&D investment in the company.
So let's end here. Let's take out our crystal balls and look 3 to 5 years in the future or so. What do you think the threat looks like at that point, and what do you think the solution that you will need to have in place by then resembles?
Right, John. So I think in 3 to 5 years, if you ask me, I think some parts of the developed world, or even some parts of even Asia or the non-developed world, will start having drones for last mile delivery. That's definitely happening, especially not so crowded areas. You can't have Amazon go everywhere, right? So they'll probably use drones. So with that, it's called beyond visual line of sight. So if that comes true, you will start to see drone highways of such nature where people have to have specific ways in which drones fly in the air. What that would also mean is every critical infrastructure facility, every airport, every prison, these large groups of assets need to know if there's something flying above them. and they need to know if it's a friend or a foe, right? So for the friend, you need to be able to register that in a website so that you can actually fly and tell everybody that I'm a good person, I'm flying. And if you're not registered, you need to have my software to know that you're not the right person, and then you're interrogated. People will stop you and say, hey, do you have the right to be here? Yes, no. If it's a no, why are you here? Please leave. So that is the future. I think in 3, 4 years, I feel like every critical infrastructure facility, if you will, in the world will need this, because you cannot have a rogue drone, hit your facility and you lose millions of dollars, and public and PR problems for you.
Super interesting. It makes me also wonder if part of the dedrone or the anti-drone functionality includes drones, which you can incorporate into your sensor suite to incorporate into enabling greater visual and other means of surveilling the territory that your asset is over, perhaps even interdicting as well, but
Yeah.
then using that in other ways for security for your facility. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things we kind of keep tinkering with, right? What is the right format in which you deliver this capability? Could you put it on a drone? Could you put it like, on a car? Could you put it on a fixed site? So these are different things that we kind of think about as well, the deployment configurations. But you're absolutely right. I think this problem is only going to get worse. This is a much larger problem, and bad guys have always been there, so now they have an easy avenue to do this. I hate to sound alarmist, but I think, for every paradigm shift that happens in society, you need to make the security layer robust before it actually takes off. So we want to be that company that can assure our customers that, hey, even if there's a drone above you, we'll tell you and you can do whatever you want with it.
Well, congratulations on the raise, and thank you for your time.
Absolutely, John. Thank you so much.